is for several reasons. First of all, the location, of course. This is a one-off. Usually we are at Dorian and Fakey's lovely sim, where we have our meetings. But we are at the Fantasy Fair 2022, and I'm doing an interview together with Saffia with a very special guest. And this is introducing to you KirstenLee Cinquetti, who is... No, I'm not going to say... Lee, can you introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, folks. Basically, I've been in Second Life for, on this avatar, it's coming up for 16 years now. So I first started in Second Life back in 2003 on my original avatar, which I've lost the email for. But never mind. I was a content creator to start with. Used to run venues, and basically I've seen Second Life grow 13 Sims to what it is today. Back in approximately 2008, Linden Lab had a change of heart about the source code to the viewer. To be fair to them, the protocol was already out the bag, so it was only a matter of time before other parties would have developed clients for Second Life. So rather than let that happen, I decided to open source, and they started by developing Linux viewer. So that was no mean feat, because originally the existed only for Macs and for Windows, and in both cases they used different development environments to do it. So to start with, when they started doing clients and the server side, it was fairly clunky. I mean, for those that are old enough to remember, when you had a feature update, servers used to go offline for a week. So let's put it this way: when they first brought out the viewer code, it was fairly rough, shall we say. And I was one of the guys who picked up on it. There's about half a dozen of us who started working with the code and fixing a few bugs and bits and pieces. And to start with, it was just changing the executable file. You just recompile it and make your own executable, fix a few bugs. And over time, sort of developed, and I spent more and more time not creating content and system user. And eventually they brought out third-party viewer register after the Emerald Gate incident. Better police the coding of viewers. There are some fairly strict rules which come into play with that. For instance, there's disclosure of my real life to Linden Lab. There's an NDA, and there's for as many years as I can remember, I've been doing it now. Obviously not to the same extent as other. I'm quite sort of busy in real life. Various reasons. A few years back, I had to stop.
Yeah, and for the people that don't follow what we're talking about, Lee, that's my mistake. You are the original creator of the Kirsten viewer. Like, we have of course, the Firestorm viewer that most people know and use. We have the official Linden viewer, of course. There's Black Dragon. There's several viewers, but you made a very special viewer all these years ago, and well, there's not many people that can do that. So, as a quick in-between introduction before people, so people get what we're talking about. You are awesome. Yeah.
There's some things that I do with every sort of viewer has a different take on things.
Hmm.
For instance, Firestorm is great for people that like all the features and for land management. It's brilliant for sort of party hosts and such like. The official viewer is the go-to viewer if you're doing financial transactions.
Ah,
Always recommend that people have the official viewer to fall back on, especially if they're doing anything which is money related.
Mm.
Um,
hmm,
and my particular take on things was to look at the code which wasn't released. So um, I think I brought out a shadow capable viewer at least 5 or 6 years before it was actually officially released.
yes, all the Machinima people went crazy when you did that.
Um,
Yeah, you remember that, Saffia?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And also
Great.
the furniture makers who'd gone around putting shadows in under their furniture just
Yeah.
didn't know what to do.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was a thing, of course, is people used to have shadows, textures.
Mm.
So yeah, a few years back, we had a Machinima Monday. A very nice chap was in the audience, and he said, "Do you know, he would really like it if I could do the 3D patch." So
Yeah.
for those that don't know, one of those experimental viewers back in the day was a client which was done by the University of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
They created a 3D viewer. I tested it out. It kind of worked. But like with a lot of projects, it got dropped. So, believe you and me, there are probably more viewers which don't make it grid, which are dead ends,
Mhm.
than there are that actually do make it. So, you know, as time has progressed, features have come in. I think I was TPV mesh uploading.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of mess around with things, and currently, Second Life has actually caught up with me because new cache system, which is the file cache, a lot faster and efficient.
Okay, do you think they got that from you, or
No, they
were just a
they were
bit slower to?
well. It was touch and go whether or not they were actually going to do it. They put it onto a test branch of the code, which is where I spend a lot of my time digging around. And I saw this and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can actually make it work. And this is half the fun of the TPVs is you can do this. You've got this flexibility to mess around with certain things. And the reason it's called Kirsten's Viewer is because I just basically make it for me. And if other people like it, absolutely fine. But I don't advertise it or, generally sort of force it down people's necks. It's just there as another alternative viewer that you can mess around with. It does have differences to the actual client. I do code it very much in the same way that Linden Lab do. I don't tend to veer too much from their coding standards because it can cause a lot of problems. Throw experimental stuff in there. But to the same extent, I like certain things that I don't like with the official viewer. For instance, atmospherics. I do mine slightly differently, so the colors are slightly different. How the textures are rendered, again, slightly different. I have specific tweaks in there for AMD graphics cards because, of course, they are the core relative to NVIDIA in Second Life. Yeah, and just generally do those little bits and pieces that I want to, which I think, yeah, I like that. And that's basically me. Shall I code a viewer? And it's all on SourceForge. And I basically, I think recently I got a community award from SourceForge. I think the last client got 10,000 downloads in a month. So
Oh wow! Gosh,
Give us-
that is special. Yeah.
They give us a little badge to put on my blog, so that's quite nice. They recognise that it's single developer.
Yeah.
Development's slow, but I'm working on it at the moment.
Yeah, because I realised that you don't advertise it at all, and still the Machinima people are still using it, but I always wondered why. But it's still downloadable, obviously.
Yeah. The thing is since I'm a single developer, such, and I work, there's only so many hours in the day that you can involve yourself with this, so I can't.
They
Forums.
used to do regular updates, I remember. Yeah.
Yes, but at the time, you see, the way things were was my partner was working, so I could devote time, and I was basically the house husband.
Right.
So I had lots of time on my hands to, cook, clean, and basically code. Unfortunately, my partner became quite seriously ill in real. Push comes to shove. For her benefit and her health and well-being, it was decided that we'd switch roles, and I would go out full-time work, and she would stay at home and get better. So
And code.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I basically sort of had to bin development for a couple of years. Then during lockdown, the opportunity arose because, of course, we were all sat at home twiddling our thumbs to revisit it. And one of the things that I decided to do was, okay, bring it up to modern specifications, which was no mean feat. Redo all the tools and the libraries for it. Specs, and thankfully, bless him, one of Oz Linden's final things he did before he retired from Second Life was quite pleased and happy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still really machinima friendly, so you say it's on, can you give a download link in chat?
Oh gosh, yeah, of course I can. Let me just have a look. So, there we go. So, it's all hosted on. So, I'll just chat. Bingo. There you go.
Thank you.
And of course, you can visit the Second Life wiki, and the links are there also
Oh, okay.
in the TPV list. So that's the direct link to the download page.
Well, I always found it very special that you were so approachable. Not that the Lindens are not, but it was so easy to find you and ask, how does this work? Can you add this? And the most special thing anybody's ever done for me is make the 3D application, the tool. It's just imagine you going to Hollywood and knock on the door and say, "Can I do a 3D movie, please? Can you create that for me? The possibilities." Well, you can in here. You go to KirstenLee and you say, "I would really, if any of you guys still have the glasses, there's still movies coming out in 3D." We made a little film, and if you put the blue and red glasses on, or the more modern ones, you can see the depth of field, the depth of it. It's,
I mean, it has other sort of applications as well. It's very useful if you're trying to visualize something in Second Life. If a shared experience and you're trying to design something or build something, you want to look at it and get that depth. It's super useful. Use it. I tell you where it's really good is in forests and trees.
Yes.
But that way you have that depth. It brings a whole new dimension to.
Well, the
a lot of
movie
architecture.
Avatar was also done a lot of nature parts. That were the best parts. It works really good in a forest. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the viewer isn't the only thing I've actually done in Second Life. So, does anybody here know of particle poofers? Or so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
explode particles. Prior to, and this is the thing about Linden Lab, you see, it's old. It's been here for nearly 20 years, and people move on, join different companies and such like. And back in about 2004, 2005, they had a problem with the Linden scripting language. They had changed the Linden scripting language, and they broke an awful lot of particle effects. So, as it happens, and basically they put out a request to older residents to help remake the particle effects. So some of the original Linden scripting language was completely broken, and it had to be remade with the tools which existed in the new scripting. So I think there's a couple of guys, and we rewrote them, submitted them to Linden Lab, because of course the original people who created these scripting effects have long since moved on and gone to other firms.
Yeah.
Nobody, believe it or not, nobody in Linden Lab actually knew how these things worked. So,
I can believe it. I
So-
really can believe
so-
it.
next time you see one of these particle poof teleports into the... Thank you, it was me.
Yes.
So when you get particle spam, it's like, oh no, please take the poofer off. You have me to blame. Well, that's what I mean to say. You know, it's not. It's the longer you spend in here, and you create content, you script, you build, you create films, you leave a lasting sort of legacy, consistent.
So my brains is saying that you started the mute block option.
So there's a feature in mine. It's quite simple actually. If someone's been unpleasant and you have to mute them, don't do it an awful lot, but if you do, my argument was that if I block them and mute them, don't want to hinder them. Because it's a cost to me in pixels basically and geometry. So the actual mute de-renders, but this has a nice side effect as well, because for machinimists they can basically mute or block a cameraman so that they disappear from the scene completely. They're not rendered, so that they can then wander around the scene, camming and filming without actually being.
Gosh, I never even thought of using it for that purpose. Gosh.
Yeah. So it's a small, tiny little thing, but it's purely client side. Still, to the rules, you still see the block list, but actually in the scene, they're gone. That's
And
the
rendered.
completely, yeah. So bottom, everything gone. Not
I
on the screen.
wish we'd had that back in the days of Treat TV. There was one famous occasion when we were visiting a rather beautiful scenario, and one of the camera people was a raccoon, as so often happens in Second Life, and I was standing admiring a beautiful waterfall and talking about it with the creator, and then I realised that in the middle of the waterfall, a big raccoon tail was sticking out.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so those sorts of things do have other applications. Now, you see, you could go all the way and then remove them from the map and all those sorts of things, but that seems a little bit draconian. If someone's muted, you just don't want to render them. It's a cost to your GPU.
Yeah. Yeah, it's when you're shooting a video somewhere in a public location, you'll always see people running through it, or I usually in Firestorm, of course, you can de-render people. This is even it's faster. And I have an invisible avatar, of course, when I'm the camera woman.
Yes,
You still see your name if you're not careful. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other bit that had to be done. Is obviously the names render in a different part of the code. So de-rendering the avatar was done in the graphical side of things.
Yep.
Nameplate is done in a separate area of the code, and that had to be dealt with as well, so that both items disappear.
Mm-hmm.
I have crazy other bits and pieces in the viewer, which is silly things really, like hover text. I really, really don't like hover text. It tends to be too invasive in the standard view. So I have settings to adjust its fade, the distance at which it's viewable, font size as well. Which sounds silly, but it's just one of those tiny little things that makes the immersion in Second Life just a little bit better.
So how would you use that?
You can change the distance at which hover text pops up. So say that you went into a beautiful place, but it had vendors all over the wall.
Mm-hmm.
All of text. You adjust the pop-up distance. So the hover text only appears about a meter away from the device.
Okay. And where else does your viewer differ from?
The rendering. Okay.
It's very light in my experience, but I don't know if that's just me.
It does a lot of heavy lifting. It increases the amount of cached or texture VRAM that can be used to its absolute limit. Now, I have to put a proviso in this. Second Life uses OpenGL, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who tells you that you can use 10 gigs of VRAM, and there are technical reasons. I think it's 4 gigs is about the limit. You won't even get there because of texture discard. But yeah, I've pushed it to about 3.5 gigs on a GPU, which allows for once a scene renders, it allows it to stay rendered. That's something you will notice between mine and the standard viewer, is that if you actually go into a full sim, stand there and let it render, on the standard viewer you will see a lot of pop at the limits of draw distance where things will phase in and out, and that's basically because as soon as it determines it's not within your field of view, it starts to discard quite aggressively.
Yeah.
Which I find a little bit unnerving, so I tend to code. Now, it doesn't do a lot of favours for my frame rate, but it does a lot of favours for my immersion. Now, from a machinimist's,
yes, I had movies ruined by that, and you have to put maximum draw distance and then take it slowly and start blurring, like, at the end of the film, start blurring it out and mask it. But I also have used it once to my advantage, like, you go on the audio, you make a feature of it, but Yes, it's a very annoying thing. All this rendering and de-rendering, pop, pop, pop. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's something that personally I like. Like I said, there's no favors from the.
For the film.
That's the other thing as well, is I don't know if anybody's noticed, and I'm assuming that most people here probably have a fairly modern computer. We seem to have reached a sort of technological threshold with Second Life, where you're not actually gaining anything. The only reason that any frame rate at all is because AMD card, which is so powerful that it forces its way. Now that has to be said, Nvidia cards are better in Second Life, period. End of conversation. If you're a machinimist, sorry. Much as I love AMD, better off with an Nvidia.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a difference. I use more VRAM. How I do the atmospherics is so in recent viewers, the last couple of months, they've changed the shaders ever so slightly. I find that the atmospherics in standard viewer now tends to wash out the scene too much. Now, I prefer to start with more vivid colours, and I could always tone things down in the process, or let the drivers do it. This is the reason that I don't have post-processing inside the viewer anymore, is because drivers, whether they be NVIDIA or AMD, do a much better job than I ever could, and a lot faster. Want sepia tone? Just do it in your driver. Or black and white.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It seemed the official London viewer was a lot crisper and clearer. Like 2 years ago, I compared them at the same scene every time. And I'll be using your viewer.
Like I say, certain edge cases, certain scenarios, it will react differently for certain scenes. It certainly gets the textures just as quickly as the official viewer. Now, again, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but basically, if you want to use KDU, which is the texture decompression, it's commercial. Okay, so as an individual developer, I would have to pay University of New South Wales 2,000 Australian dollars for the privilege of using it. So that's okay. Bigger viewer, a lot of financial backing, revenue, and I don't have that sort of money to hobby. So I've spent a lot of time on OpenJPEG, but specifically for Second Life, as opposed to any other reason. So it's basically, I've boiled it down to what do I need to do to open JPEG to make it as fast as possible. And it's like a perfect storm. It's extremely fast now, and it just so happens that it works very nicely with modern CPUs. This is the thing. I've discovered that the multi-threading of KU is okay. It's fine, but OpenJPEG has caught up because the IPC, or the iterations per second that a CPU can clock through nowadays, are so high that it just basically brute forces it. And I have to be honest, that aspect of the viewer and texture decompression I don't have an issue with anymore. Everybody's rendered here perfectly. All the textures are crisp. I haven't got any pop whatsoever. And that's at fairly high settings, so horses for courses, really.
I'm sure that most people here are on Firestorm or the original viewer, the Linden viewer official. I mean, if you zoom in and out, you see everything pop in and pop out, right? Machinima Mondays people.
Nope.
So you know what the next homework assignment will be. We'll use different viewers and compare them.
For those certain scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of little top tips for machinists. You can obviously use haze in atmospherics to sort of blend into a scene. For instance, say you were having someone walking down a street, so the only bit of that scene that you street and shop fronts, just like the old movies, that's the only bit you want to see, and you can use haze to bring it in to sort of focus in on that area, and then basically the rest of the scene is just empty space. Another top tip: if you're going to use textures to put on the objects to build your scene, it is better, believe it or not, to use 4 prims with 256 by 256 textures put together in 4 prims than it would be to use 1 prim 1024 by 1020. Every time you double the size of a texture, it takes the decompressor 16 times more time to render it.
Yeah. That's why you can't see at certain shops, because people think, high quality is better.
So,
yeah.
Well, you don't have to lower the quality, but if you basically
Size.
take an image and alter it, so it's 256 by 256, it's less cost to actually post that onto 4 prims than 1 prim and post 1 larger texture on.
By 1024, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It will bring stuff in a lot quicker. It's a lot less heavy liftings. Add several scenes that you have to do, and camera angles and different bits. Certainly don't want that fuzzy sort of texture thing where it's trying to load. You want it to be snappy as one scene to the next to the next. So there are certain tricks and bits to play with. Do quite a nice job.
I'm not sure if there's already questions from the audience. You're welcome. I'll read them out or you can ask them in voice. It's also fine if you want to talk. Yeah, I see some people typing. So Zoe is asking, KirstenLee, can you repeat the part about textures and prims and the way they are registered in World?
Okay, so as you know, textures in Second Life basically come in multiples. So you'll have a 128 by 128, 256 by 256, 512 by 512, and 1024 by 1024. Each time you go up in size, for the texture decompressor, be it KDU or OpenJPEG, it approximately takes the compressor 16 times more time at each level to basically render that texture fully. Yeah. Now, if you have a complex scene where you've got a lot of high detail textures and you're trying to film it, bearing in mind was a discards thing, quite aggressive. You uncompress that texture, it goes into your cache or your file system so that it's stored locally. Turn your camera around to look at it again. It basically plucks that texture out of your cache and then it just rebuilds the image. It takes an awful long time to do a 1024 by. So the trick is this. Prims, just a cube, costs nothing in triangles. Okay, so not with today's hardware. Rather than have 1 prim with a 1024 texture on it. Have 4 prims, and then in your favorite Photoshop or GIMP or whatever program you use, quarter your 1024 texture into 4 separate pieces, then apply it to the 4 prims. Top corner, left, right, bottom corner, left, right. That will render way faster than a 1024 texture would render. You can try it yourself. Basically, if you go into a sim or your own parcel and you do it, do one with a 1024 high detail texture, do the other one with 4 prims with it quartered. Turn around or TP out, get your stopwatch ready, TP back in, and I guarantee you the 4 quartered one will be rendered crisp as you like, way quicker than the 1024 would be.
Okay, thanks for taking the time to answer that. Is texture uncompressing the main time rather than the texture service providing then on network flow time? Is the question?
So obviously this is a networked environment. Most everything just gets streamed to you. The avatar's position, our voices, everything goes across the net, including textures. Now, how Second Life deals with this is it has a very small cache on your local hard drive. As you TP into a scene, if you've never been there before, oh, look, this is all new. And you'll see it. Usually the geometry will start to build first, and then the textures will go through their levels. Start off blurry, and then the focus decompress. Now, the viewer's clever enough to know that you might visit that place again. So it'll put those textures into the cache. Okay? And it's like a first in, last out sort of queue. Yep, this is your discard rate, so to speak. So if you then visit another sim, it'll fill up your cache with those textures. And the textures you just downloaded, if the cache fills up, it's about 9 gigabytes, I think, is the maximum you can have. It'll go off the end, and they'll get discarded again. So, believe you and me, you can hold a lot more smaller textures than big ones.
Well, it used to be when filmers had troubles resing or seeing things that, clear cache was the old answer to all the problem solving.
Yeah, I mean, that's
filming.
Yeah, but because it's a networked environment, it has to do it like this. You can't. Now, believe you me, I've experimented with this. I thought to myself, what if I just downloaded S? I mean, you see modern games now, they're in the gigabytes of information that they contain because of all the textures. Now, they have infinitely higher frame rates because everything is stored on the hard drive. And I was thinking to myself, what if I could do that? Great. But there are technical reasons. There is a fun thing you can do, though. If you ever have network issues, there are certain things in Second Life which will always render. Those are linden trees.
Oh, yes.
Now, there is a reason for that. It's because ever since day one, the viewer has a very small archive of default objects and textures.
Right.
So Ruth always exists. Ruth, if nothing else loads, there is always Ruth, because Ruth is actually locally stored hard drive on every installation.
Okay.
So I messed with this because I thought, this is fun. I actually uncompressed it. I spoke to the guy who originally created the trees, Eric Linden. I had a chat with him, and do you remember what program he used? And he used some obscure paint program that used to exist on Macintoshes. Obviously, it didn't exist. But he told us exactly how they work, and I thought, okay. So I actually changed, have a summer, autumn, and winter scheme. Now, if you create a cypress tree, it has certain varieties that it randomly picks from, and it produces the cypress tree. I actually changed it so that I could have one which only had brown leaves, and
Right.
so on and so forth. So those particular elements of the viewer exist all the time, and that's why I thought to myself, what if I downloaded, I don't know, my entire cache of my own sim, and then basically rip all those textures out of the cache, and then put them into this tar file, so that basically they would always be on my hard drive, loaded up all the time, instantly. Sounds great. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out.
Pity. I was thinking film studios. It would be...
No, honestly, it doesn't. It don't work very well. It ends up breaking a lot of.
Okay.
And you spend about 2 hours logging in, because it basically has to go through this list. But there are some fixed textures that do exist all the time. For instance, where does the plywood texture come from?
Yes.
Yeah. It's always there. It always has been. There are certain things which are there all the time.
Are they basically the textures that are in the library?
No, the library's server side as such. So the folders are empty and they're populated when you log in. Okay. But trees, or at least linden trees, and plants, grasses, the Ruth character, and a couple of choice textures, standards, exist all the time.
Access all the time, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. I could go on for hours, talking with you. It's. I want to ask a question to the audience. Do any of you have the movie glasses at hand, the 3D glasses? Because I have a special request from Dorney. She wants to see the 3D stereo machinima we made. We have to show a little bit of filming of what can be done in your viewer. So if you have these glasses, and if not, use your imagination. I'm just going to run this little machinima.
I think I have. I'm going to have a quick look.
Okay, I'll give everybody 10 seconds. Go to your drawer, quickly fetch them. And I'm going to run this machinima on the big screen. So, for the people that found the glasses, I'm going to feed the TV. Let's see if the link works. Yeah. Okay. I'm submitting it now. Okay, it's in the big screen above my head. You have to double click in the middle.
Sadly, no. I'm going to be using my imagination.
Yeah, okay. That works. Filmmakers can do that. So I gave the link in chat and double click on the screen to see the film. Oh my, 2011.
Yeah, the view's been around a while.
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one's asked why red-blue.
Yeah.
It's because all the other formats, which is cyan yellow and various combinations thereof, are actually patented and copyrighted and cannot be used unless you pay for it commercially.
Gosh, that's great. I never knew that.
Yeah. So you see these ones with the purple yellow ones, which are supposedly better for depth perception.
Yeah.
That's can't be done. If I was to put that in the viewer, I'd get hung, drawn, and quartered.
Okay. I hear there's an error, so let me resubmit. And otherwise, use the direct link. There we go. It's playing now, I think. Yes, it's playing.
And how did you find me in this lonely place?
There really was a lot of death in this one. Yeah.
On my island.
Do you know the Sims, Saffia, where this was shot?
Yeah, I used to love it, but there was Alpha Point and Omega Point.
Yes.
And they were so
You
beautiful.
said you found me.
So the thing to say was that was the original code that I put in, which was based originally off the University of Michigan's work.
Like a beacon.
The current version in the viewer now is completely reworked.
Oh.
So the original version, the way it was designed, and this was right back from the original concept, was that basically one eye or frame would be rendered with the red filter, and then the second frame would be rendered with the blue filter. Now, it doesn't take a genius to work out that if you had 60 frames per second, you switch on 3D, basically halving your frame rate. Half of the frames are rendering the red and half are rendering the blue. The current version on the client now actually doesn't do that. It now renders at the native frame rate. So, in point of fact, there is no cost involved in 3D.
Okay, so I'm saying now, filmmakers, we are so going to use that. Okay. Well, Lee, thank you so much for all
You're
your
welcome.
I mean, this is the audience is really silent. It's a lot of technical talk, of course. We need this. We need this to grow and to make better.
I hope you'll come and talk again to Machinima Monday.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want me back, yeah, no problem. Perhaps next time we could talk about the future of Second Life and the rendering and where it's going to and whether or not we're going to have Vulkan.
Yep. Okay. We have to wrap because the theatre is taken at the full hour. So if there are any questions for Lee, then please do it quickly. Still like a minute time. So Atara says he's tried it. I'm sure we're all going to retry it now.
Yep, and remember, folks, the third-party viewers are a nice bit of fun, but if you have any serious business that you're doing in Second Life, always, always, always use the official viewer. That's, I don't want to preach about stuff like that, but, I'm only one human. If I make an error and a bug, I would hate to think that someone harms a financial transaction because they've been using my viewer or any other TPV for that matter. So when it comes to serious business, but have fun. That's the main thing.
And we will take you up on that offer. Yeah.
Now, one of the things you could experiment with in Kirsten's viewer is actually doing a film for the Second Life, for the Fantasy Faire first film competition.
Oh my god, I'm sure you will win if you do it in 3D. There's a competition going on this week, a special competition, and I'm really hoping and praying that Machinima Mondays people will enter it and one of us will win it. I can't enter it because I'm jury like Saffia, so I have to count on you guys. And wouldn't it be so cool to do a 3D Machinima on the Fantasy Fair ground and enter it in the contest?
So you will find the rules for the competition hang on, I'm just
I've just given the link. I've given the link.
Give the link, yeah.
Fired it up.
There are three There are 3 categories. There's factual, there's fictional, and there's live stream. So my brains, you could enter a different category.
You can enter 3 times. There's no money to be won, but there's a huge prize, I would say. This is the very first contest on the on the Fantasy Fairlands, the first of its kind, and we are giving out waffles like a
It's
like Oscar, second life
yeah.
Fantasy Fair Oscar.
It's been specially designed by Mary Layton.
Yeah.
And it's a very fun trophy to win. And of course you'll have your name on it. So it will be very unique.
That is a collector's item, I would say. But it's so nice to enter the contest, and you don't have to aim so high, make it so complicated. Of course, for the narrating people amongst us, it's a bit more difficult. But if you just want to show the beauty or tell a little story or give the atmosphere or live stream, this is a perfect contest to enter. It'll keep you off the streets for a few days also. And you don't have to enter the contest like Prita said. You can just enter the link from YouTube or Vimeo or another platform, Flickr will do. And you just send us the link and say specifically that you are out of contest, but you want your film to be shown or your live stream. That's very possible. If you go to the website we just gave, you see all the rules. They're simple, short and sweet films.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be a great idea to do it in 3D. Oh, yeah. What a pity. Yeah.
Kirsten, thank you so much.
Yes.
Hey, you're most welcome. No, it's been fun. I am working on the viewer at the moment. The current one that is on the website is an interim build. There will be some rapid updates over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, just watch this space.
Okay. And if people have questions, they can just contact you, huh?
Yeah, of course I can. There is a little forum on the SourceForge website. They're welcome to leave a message there, or they can always drop an IM to me in World. I might not be online, like I say. Real life and work tends to be quite hectic, but I'm online. I don't mind some.
Yeah, and people can give them to me. I'll pass them on also. Yeah. Okay, well, we need to wrap up, and thank you very much. Yes, big applause for Kirsten.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So much.
It's been fun. Been brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.